Good evening, welcome everybody to tonight's monthly board meeting. First order of business, I will call this to order and our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do we have any changes for the agenda? All right, hearing none, agenda will stand as it is printed. Clerk's report.
Minutes from September 12, 2024. The meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. at Moose Lake Community Center by Chairman Al Overland. The meeting opened with the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisors present: Al Overland, Heidi Cronin, Tony Bakhtiari, Clerk Walcher, Treasurer Horgan, Coordinator Brittany, Stampahar, Zoning Administrator Scott Beckman, Road Manager Vern Anderson, and Recorder Amy Crane. Approval of agenda. Changes to the agenda. Old business moved MSA GIS mapping presentation up to item A from new business, and Township hard drive item B. Under old business, combined financial audit with audit discussion and Windemere Lakes Association, Windemere Township newsletter, and supervisor pay. Motion by Bakhtiari to approve the agenda, second by Overland, motion carried. Clerk's report, August 8th, 2024, board meeting minutes were read by Clerk Walcher, minor corrections made, motion by Bakhtiari to approve August minutes with corrections, second by Overland, motion carried. Treasurer's report, Treasurer Horgan reviewed the financial reports. The total cash balance as of August 31st, 2024 was $730,700. Motion by Bakhtiari to approve the treasurer's report, seconded by Overland, motion carried. The detailed financial reports are posted on the Township website. Public input, Chad Robbins commented, Jeremy Worrell commented, Jude Steffens commented, Ron Buto commented. Old business, MSA GIS mapping presentation. Jeff Getzman and Jeff Powell discussed the right-of-way permitting, management and administration currently in use, as well as proposal for additional add-on options. Motion by Cronin to approve the contract with MSA with a not-to-exceed budget of $8,000 and authorize right-of-way application processing and payments of fees to MSA for the period June 1st to December 31st, second by Bakhtiari. Motion carried. MSA was directed to present the add-on GIS mapping options to the Planning Commission. Township hard drive. The clerk advised that she has both hard drives that store scanned documents. Audit. Horgan and Coordinator Stampahar will send out RFPs for a year-end financial audit. New policy, ordinance, and resolution publication. Coordinator Stampahar discussed whether internal policies should be on the Township website. Updated fee schedule. Coordinator Stampahar proposed an updated fee schedule on the website. Motion by Overland to update fees as per the attached fee schedule, second by Bakhtiari, motion carried. Pine County tax forfeit properties and conservation memorial Pine County funds. Coordinator Stampahar reported on Pine County's proposal to dedicate the memorial forest in honor of all military veterans. No action required. Bakhtiari reported Pine County has $275,551 tax forfeited property fund that can be used for blight issues. This is money available for the township to apply for to assist in cleaning up blight. In addition, a portion of all tax forfeited sales goes towards funding parks and recreation. That could also be applied to assist for other township projects. Levy. Overland discussed the need to increase the levy to provide for future projects and financial stability of the township. Windemere Lakes Association. Bakhtiari attended the Pine County Commissioners meeting in Pine City and discussed the milfoil issue on Sturgeon Lake. The Pine County Commissioners voted to provide financial assistance for Windemere milfoil eradication. Windemere Lakes Association has allocated $30,000 to use towards mitigation. Newsletter. Terry proposed a quarterly informal newsletter be mailed to citizens. Motion by Terry to create a 2-page double-sided newsletter to mail to Windemere property owners to provide useful information. Seconded by Overland. Motion carried. Supervisor pay. Referring to the January 2023 Town Board Resolution, Terry noted compensation is limited for town officers attending only meetings listed in the resolution. Attendance at meetings outside those listed in the resolution do not qualify for compensation. Board of Supervisors other. Overland reported harassment to a township contractor and the alleged investigation by the FBI. Motion by Overland to contact an attorney to investigate these issues. Second by Terry. Motion carried. Road update. Road manager Anderson reported on the completed and pending road work. The report will be posted on the township website. A map depicting road projects completed between June 2023 to present was presented. Zoning update. Zoning Administrator Beckman reported 97 permits this year to date and ongoing blight enforcement. Beckman requested permission to seek new legal counsel to review outstanding unresolved zoning issues. Planning Commission update. Next meeting is scheduled for September 24th, 2024. Fire District update. 22 calls, 7 in Windemere, 5 medical, 2 motor vehicle accidents with injuries. The Moose Lake Area Fire Department would like to meet with the board to review the contract for either a yearly or a 5-year contract. No time or date has been set. Claims review. Claims. A total of $136,107.88. Motion by Terry to approve claims as listed, seconded by Overland. Motion carried. Open mail and review. Motion to adjourn meeting at 10:09 p.m. by Terry, second by Overland. Motion carried.
All right, you've heard the minutes. Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, a motion be in order to approve the minutes as read.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
Bakhtiari, aye.
Cronin, aye. I just want to bring up 2 things. There's still time for people to apply to be an election judge. I'm in need of, I hate to say it, but I'm in need of people that can put down as Democrats. I've got Republicans, so many that I can't even use, but I have to have an equal amount of Republicans and Democrats, and I'm looking for more Democrats to sign up. Anyway, if you want to be a judge, I have the form, we can get it to the county. There's one more training on
October 23rd.
23rd, I think, yeah, October 23rd is a training so that you would be trained for the elections. So let me know if you are interested or anybody else can be interested. We can get you signed up. And then there's another thing that I noticed when I was going through some of the things at home, that we don't have a current lease for Kaminsky for the pole building. Is there a lease, a new lease?
It won't take effect till this fall.
So they've been parking in the building this whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just want people to be aware of that. That's it.
Very good. Treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you. We'll go with the PowerPoint for about 3 slides, and then I'll switch over to the...
Can't hear you, Paul.
Oh, sorry. You want to hear me? That's the
Yeah.
question.
Well,
Okay,
there's the
good.
financial report. Yeah.
Thank you. That's good. That's good enough. Sorry about that. Okay, I think everyone can hear me now. I'm going to go with the first 3-4 pages of my PowerPoint and maybe turn the lights down a little bit so the people in the back can see. And then, oops, not quite that much, so Paul can read too. So we're going to just kind of give a little bit different report, since I sent you, the board members, a update on a pro forma or forecast of our cash position and our budget. That would be a budget for the rest of the year, kind of anticipating what the expenses will be. And then I took a whack at 2025, so you can see what the cash position might look like. And you can put all the next few slides on it. So it might look like, and it would basically I'll spend most of my time calling attention to the need to discuss the levy. And as most of you probably know, or if you don't, you recall that at the annual meeting in March, the Township Day, March of 2024, the revenue or levy for next year is set. So this year's levy, as you will soon be paying your real estate taxes if you own property, was set in 2023. So I'm always looking as treasurer at a 2-year period. So I'm looking, seeing the big picture. I'm saying, okay, where are we this year and next year, since we know what our revenue is going to be. So we might as well, work on expenses. And the discussion of levy, if it goes to February for a Board of Audit or into March, and you can find out at least a half an hour before the meeting, it's too short a time. We've got to assume that the electorate, that is the voters, will come to the annual meeting to listen to your levy proposal, rather than, and if they're going to only hear it there, it's not adequate. They need to know what your plan is. You might say it's very difficult to sell a levy to the electorate, but you can show the electorate what it is you're going to spend the money on. The levy is the levy, and who's for any levy increase or continuation of a high levy? Everybody's always going to be for continuation of a low levy. So you have to explain, what are you going to spend the money on? What's the budget look like? And I believe, now is the time. That's why I sent you a spreadsheet last week ago, so you've had a chance to look at that. And I spent considerable time updating it through our claims for the month of, for this month. So the checks that you'll be signing in October are September expenses. And then forecasting the expenses that you might be approving next month and the month after. So those would be the October and the November expenses. December expenses won't be approved until, or claims won't be approved until January. So that's the way it works. Okay, so here's the big picture. We're going to start with this, then we're going to get granular. Since you've had all the financials, for a few days now, and you've all got these computers, so you know those reports. Let's just take a look at what this means as a big picture. So the money forecast, unofficial estimates for the rest of 24 and 25 looks like this. The cash balance that's reported, and you've seen that report already, 9/30 is $604,758. So if we subtract out the claims that you've got in front of you tonight, assuming that they get approved, that amount on the claim sheet here is $205,787. So I subtract that. So then we know our cash after claims are paid, would be $398,000. So you can see our cash position is it looks a little bleak. It's dwindling because there are reasons for it, and I'm going to talk about those tonight too. So, but fortunately, we have half of the levy coming in towards the end of the year, November, whenever it gets here. And I'm estimating the most it could be is $225,000 between intergovernment stuff, gas, whatever they end up giving us, and the part of the $400,000 levy would be the $200,000. So then the approved 2025 levy and other income that we might get next year, already set, is $525,000. The $400,000 levy, and then the intergovernmental level that trickles in. Delinquent taxes, gas tax, and any other intergovernment money that we get. So that brings us to cash available for the rest of 24 and all of 25 is $1,148,971. Now take off the reserve fund of $500,000. And I'm just going to assume for a minute that the board would agree with the state auditor, as it's been recommended, you should hold as reserves equal to about an annual budget. Well, this would be, the current levy would be less than an annual budget because, you've already have an estimated budget that's more than levy. So 500,000 would seem to be the right number. Now I'll pause here a minute and And I certainly don't want to sound like I'm admonishing the board, the town board, but, you know, it's up to you to be the most knowledgeable people on funding of the township, where the money comes from and how it's spent, and all the issues, because your treasurer, whoever that is next year, is not responsible for that. The treasurer is really a glorified accountant, anything but a chief financial officer. You'd like to see we'd like to think of a treasurer as a chief financial officer, but that's not the way it works in township law. You are the chief financial officer, and the treasurer is the bookkeeper, basically, the accountant. And I'm taking on the additional responsibility, I hope you appreciate it, to give analysis of where we are so that you can be the chief financial officers. So let's go to the next slide. Or the next slide, this is my favorite slide because I keep reposting it. I think for 5 out of the 6 months that I've been your volunteer interim appointed treasurer. I really like this. I think it's so important. I wish you'd laminate it and put it on your bathroom mirror or your bulletin board in your house or your refrigerator, whatever works for you. Next slide. And here's this hot button issue called the Sturgeon Island Bridge cover. And I just want to get this out of the way because we've got, you know, other things that are more applicable to discussion and decision making this evening. Sturgeon Island Bridge cover, you can see the structure and the transportation, construction parts and electric service, add all that up and you get $187,000. We're getting close to our budgeted amount of $200,000. The estimate's pending, and this is a wild estimate, $10,000. That'd be $177,000. We hope that comes out under budget. Everybody would appreciate that, I'm sure. Okay, now, and here's another slide left over from last month that we didn't get a chance to talk too much about, but I feel based on observing the operation of this township, you know, we're missing something on this coordinator thing. You know, we hired a coordinator, and you know the non-budgeted amount that had to be put into the budget for the rest of the year in the future of $68.75 per month. So if I want to analyze that, and in light of the discussion that occurred at these board meetings, and much of the time I was a deputy treasurer, didn't speak, and the last 6 months, and gearing up to the hiring of the coordinator. So let's look at this analysis and what's been discussed and what's happening and what's not happening. And then you can take under advisement in old business, new business, this month, next month, whatever. If you got 100% of the payroll for the coordinator, the supervisor's salaries could be reduced by at least 10% based on transferring work that you don't want to do, never have wanted to do, and couldn't do very efficiently because you have other priorities in your life, and a coordinator is to be dedicated to solving problems, which is, you know, doing part of your job. So let's take 10% of it. And then extra meeting costs, I put a -3% of this is a cost transfer, problem solved, work transferred, efficiency added. You know, small amount, but yeah, things get done. I've always commented informally about the agenda and saying, I'm sure I wrote to Heidi and other chairpersons, Alan, whoever else has been chair, and I've suggested, you know, a substantial percentage of the agenda could be accomplished during the month because they're problems that somebody wants solved. And they could be solved by the coordinator if it's just an interpretation of policy. Obviously, if it's authority that the coordinator doesn't have, it wouldn't work, but this should help. So zoning work transfer over time, transferring zoning, more and more of the zoning over the coordinator. That's a cost transfer of 10%. Road management, same thing. Planning commission work, it's a very modest amount, but I think based on being a member of the planning commission for 5 years off and on, there's a lot of interim work that coordinator can handle. Having a full-time office and a telephone that rings and gets answered, you know, saves us time and effort on that instead. Same thing with the Board of Adjustment. The clerk treasurer work, this is a big one. 15% work transfer. If ballot questions B and D pass, and the clerk treasurer is appointed and it's a coordinator, that's a cost transfer of 15%. And then I might just comment there that as treasurer and as a bean counter, whatever you want to call me, this is an urgent issue. You all should be writing letters to the editor of the paper and promoting and finding, stuff on your bulletin board that says pass B and D, because it saves us money. I can't imagine anyone that's knowledgeable over time of the role of the clerk, Minnesota statutes, and the treasurer that would want to have a separate clerk and treasurer. Not for a sophisticated township like this. It's a duplication of effort. 2 computers, 2 printers, a crossover of responsibilities. It's just borders on ridiculous. So, and you have to have an audit anyway, in my view. So I urge you to pass those ballot questions. Elections, here, if you had an elected clerk that was working on elections, there's money. That's a modest amount, at least 2%. We wouldn't be paying anything extra if the clerk treasurer was handling elections, and that is the coordinator. So, I think it's an important thing to think about and consider how this impacts decisions that you make on work transfers. So, thank you for listening to all that. Next item of business. In my comment section, I'm going to go directly to, I'll come back to this PowerPoint, but I'm going to go directly to a spreadsheet that is similar to what I sent to you a week ago, but now today I've updated it to include the claims report and an update on where we stand with expenses for the rest of the year. You really need to know what the outlook is, the current financial outlook. And I also will add some brief remarks in about 3 or 4 slides later on how this happened. And when I talk about how this happened and what excessive expenses have been, it's not to put on blame or judgment about it. It is. Okay, so let's switch over to this spreadsheet. Now you're familiar with this format, and I call it the Chart of Accounts 2.0. So anyone that's ever worked with or seen or done books with, we'll go to the top of that sheet, the treasurer's books, or the treasurer's books, or the clerk's books, the township records, and the budget that's been put on the website, you see about, I think it's 210 lines, and it's a convoluted mess in Chart of Accounts 1.0 that's required for CTAS and basically for QuickBooks, Intuit and QuickBooks that we use. So what I've done is I've reorganized the Chart of Accounts where I've considered every expense. All the expenses are there, everything you have to do to run the township, but it's put into a few categories. And we'll be going over those categories very briefly. But let's start with a financial analysis. The cash balance then, which has been reported at year end, and you have those financials. As of 9/30, that would be our monthly report. We have today 604,758. Let's just go with round numbers. I'll just mention the thousands, and you can worry about the cents and the hundreds. So 604,000, and then I subtracted the claims to be approved tonight of 205,000, and then if we hold the reserve fund, and I keep coming back to this and emphasizing it in a worksheet, because a reserve fund needs to be determined, and it needs to be set either by resolution or by minutes. If it's a resolution, it stands. You can't change it unless you make another resolution. If you put it in the minutes and say this is what we want it to be, it could change the next month. But resolutions are taken a little bit more seriously. So let's subtract out 500,000 and hold that, and then where do we stand with a cash balance as of 9/30? We're dipping into the reserves because we're minus 101,000. But good news, it wouldn't last long because we add on 225,000 and we bring ourselves up to 123,000 with the second half levy that comes in. So that means without the reserve spending, we'd have 123,000. So let's now go through the new chart of accounts. Just go ahead and go down. I say, well, if the board gets a modest amount of pay, minimum, $200 a month, it would cost us for the rest of the year, $1,200, and there's payroll expense, and then there's a clerk expense, and there's clerk payroll, and there's the coordinator, and you see all, this entire category is called board, clerk, treasurer, and staff. So I'm putting all of this chart of accounts 2.0, puts all of the expenses related to payroll into one section. So the rest of the year, 21,000 and some dollars. Fire protection is a check, is an amount left to be paid, assuming they bill us by the end of the year, 45,000. And then the next section is office operations. Much of this in chart of accounts 1.0 is mixed up in under what's called the clerk expense. And it makes no sense, but I think Floyd B. Olson was the governor when this whole township thing was developed in about 1936. So that's why it is what it is. So I've created this 2.0 to say, there we are. That's our operational expense, rent and meeting rooms and AV and office, internet, phones, cleaning, dues, office equipment, all of that. So the rest of the year is $2,800, I guess it is. And then elections, you know, if I was budgeting, if I was a board member, and I'm not, but it's up to you, I would say, whoever's running elections, I'll give you $2,000. So, you know, maybe you gotta bring in sandwiches, maybe you're gonna have a less expensive lunch, maybe you're gonna spend it all on food, you know. But it might be 2,000, it might be 3,000, I have no idea what it would be, but, you know, as a board, you can say, here's what we're gonna spend on elections. Make it adequate to make it comfortable for people to vote. Of course, advertising, postage, now, these are one item expense categories, very easy. Advertising, assessment, a lot of people don't know this, but Pine County charges us to apply the taxes to 2,400 properties in our township. And it's $12,000, but we've already paid it this year. Maybe they'll charge us less. They're talking about the possibility that they're gonna quit charging the township, so they must have some excess money. So write some letters, talk to your, what is it called? Commissioner, county commissioner. Legal expenses, you know, I said maybe that's 2,500. Donations, 0. Township members of the electors have consistently said, don't give away our money. So that's, I legitimately, I think, put in 0. So subtotal there, and a total of 100, and what does that say, 111,000? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so $111,000 will get us through the year. That means the total cash projected at the end of the year with this includes doesn't include the reserve fund, but it includes the $225,000. We'd have $12,000. Add back in the reserves now. I like to call your attention to that. That's why I play around with it a bit. I think it makes sense. So with the reserve fund, it'd be $512,000 at the end of the year. So we take that number that's in that cell. Now we'll go to the top of the page, and I'll just give you a brief rundown on a draft budget. So you see the 512 is at the top there under January 1 of 2025. Yeah, so if we projected our operational cash with the reserves, $512,000 on January 1. What a beautiful date that will be that I turn over this laptop and all these papers and files, and my volunteering role, as much a blessing as it's been, will be over. And I project you'll have $512,000. Now I'm going to take the levy and other expenses now and add that back in. I realize this is granular, but when we get to the end of this report, I think the public will certainly know if they're listening, and you'll have it reinforced that this is so vital that no one understands the financials of this township better than the supervisors. You have to know them most. So here's, if you were going to go to work, have a special meeting, or set a committee of one person to look at this, you know, I'd give you a little head start here and say, you got $512,000. The levy next year, I'm just going to say $500,000. It could be $525,000. I think I've written that before, but let's be conservative. We're going to get $500,000. That means the $400,000 that's already been set as a levy, plus, can't be changed, plus $100,000 in intergovernmental revenue. So that brings us, back up there to the next 512. Now let's go to a 2025 budget. This is what the public needs to know And if you're gonna tell me and anybody else, you know, that's listening and cares about the levy coming up in March, what are you gonna spend it on? Why do you need, you know, how much money do you need? So, board, payroll and all that, I'm down to a couple of lines down, Paula. This whole section of board, there you go, thank you, board, treasurer, and clerk, all the payroll. 120, is it 120,000?
Yeah.
So there you have it. In the previous chart of accounts, I would defy anyone to tell me what it would be. You just have to get your calculator out and drag numbers all the way around. Here, I'm just handing it to you on a silver platter. You got 120,000 in payroll. And you notice, I withheld pay for the supervisors, and I reduced the pay for everyone else. Because I'm saying, as I think the public says, you pass a levy, and then we'll decide how much money you can spend on yourselves. So, okay, so take that with a grain of salt, you're the boss. Fire protection is 90,000, we assume we get an annual contract. And then let's go to the bottom of that section, Paula. And we've got the operational part, the office and all that, of $17,000. So you would never know this under Chart of Accounts 1, but now you know that you've got an estimated cost that's fixed in place to have an operation. That means you're always going to have garbage someplace, and you're going to have postage and website, and it doesn't matter if you have an office or not, but when you put all that operation together, you got $17,000. The elections next year, correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy, is there any election next year?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't believe so either, so unless there's a surprise election, there's no cost next year. Posting and advertising, well, only when necessary. If a meeting isn't necessary, nobody pays attention to that much anyway, put it on the website. So $1,200 will have to go to the newspaper for the things that have to go in there. And then you have the assessment expenses, assuming the county rips us off again, the county charges us again for that expense, $12,000. And then the legal expenses, I put in a number. So somebody's got to put in a number. I'm going to tell you something right now that is not very pleasant, and it's not for blame or judgment. It's the circumstances of a 5-year period of time that began before this year and before 2022. The township board had to spend, for whatever reasons, and I'm not asking you to audit this, I'm just saying it was $138,000 in legal expenses. Way too high. I mean, we have to do a better job of running a township that doesn't end up with that much money spent on legal expenses. Typical township might spend a few $1,000s. Next item, donations, 0. Here as treasurer, I just reinforce the fact that the electorate seems to vote about 2 to 1 on, we pay taxes to take care of the township, not whatever nonprofits that you choose. We'll choose our own. So that leaves us, where are we here? Public Works. We want a very high percentage of the total expenses, whatever that is, we'll find out in a minute. You want a very high expense in Public Works. I want to popularize the idea of Public Works in this township. Because when you look at the accounting system and the chart of accounts, that's the first thing the public should go to. How much money are you going to spend on roads, bridges, grading, culverts, ditching, gravel hauling, anti-dust, asphalt replacement, GIS mapping? You acted on GIS, it was a good idea to act on GIS mapping last month too. But let me point you to numbers that you can create easily by discussion with your road people, Vern and Tony. You can figure this out. I've got it down for $475,000 next year. That's a whopping 65% of the total expense that will be indicated there. The next line there, Paul, if you put a box around there, up to $720,000. That's what it costs to run the township next year. That's conservative because that's me doing the budget, not you. Or maybe you could be more conservative, I don't know. But I think the number one thing you want to point out there is how much of this total expense that's coming out of the funds of the electorate is spent on Public Works. And they've got 65%. That's the best news you can get. But now the more bleak news. If all that happens exactly that way, there's a spending of $720,000, and we're in the hole $207,000, assuming the reserve fund is in place. That would spend $207,000 of the $500,000 reserve fund. So let's add back in the reserves, and it gives you a total picture of how much money there is. And this is, again, pretty bleak, you know, $292,000. So all of this is to say, this is where you are. And it's straightforward, it's understandable. You don't have to play around with, you know, 200 lines to figure out what belongs where. This is how much money it costs to operate the township, somewhere in this vicinity. Now, as far as this, I'll say one more thing about reserves, then we'll switch over to the PowerPoint, and I'll finish up with that. The reserves, I can't imagine that you're going to say it's more than 500,000. That would make bleak look really bleak. But you know, at the same time, if you said, well, I don't want 500,000, I want 400,000, probably doesn't make much difference. You know, when you're doing a board of audit, you're calculating what the reserve needs to be, whether you got reserves of 5 or 4, that might be just a little bit too granular. So let's switch over to the PowerPoint and I'll finish up. Do I still have your attention?
No.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Well, you know, there's a water fountain out in the hall. Okay, history of levies, 2000. Now, does anyone, stop there a second, if you would. Would anyone be interested in the history of levies between 2014 and 2025? No, nobody's interested. Well, the board is very interested. And financial management is critical, you know. And the current financial outlook, and then how did this happen, and reporting on that without blame or judgment, just the facts. So here it is. Here's the history of levies. 2012 to 2018, that's 7 years of levies, and the average, what is that, around 735,000. And then 2019, 2018, the levy was reduced to 400,000. That was ineffective until 2019. So for the last 7 years, it's kind of interesting. We had 7 years of high levies, and at the end of that period, we had about $3.3 or $3.4 million in the bank. So, you know, I've said before, again, without blame or judgment, are we a township or are we a bank? You know, that was obviously, we were overtaxed. But as sooner or later, the money is needed, so you have to be careful about finding too much fault, because, you know, the money was there to be spent on public works and other costs, so it could have been, it would need it. But what is the public looking for? They're looking for a little even Steven, you know. What are your expenses? Levy for that, have a reserve fund, and if you dip into the reserve fund, levy a little more the next year. Next slide, please. So you might ask, how would this happen? Because if you've gone this far with this financial analysis, you have to ask, well, how did this happen? We need to raise the levy. So after 7 years with a reduced levy and the need for restoring a higher levy, it's been both evident and predictable. But of course, nobody wants to talk about it. A timeline of events can easily be observed, some very costly, dating back years. And there's negatives and there's positives. So let's look at it. So the outline of critical events include increasing high levy. From 2012 to 2018, the average $735,000. That's over $5 million in a 7-year period. Now in another 7-year period, 2018 to 25, and the reason I can say 18 to 25, let me just remind you, the 400,000 was set this last year. So we know what the income is going to be, as I repeat. So that's $2.8 million. So something over $2 million, $2.3 million less in the last 7 years than 7 years before. This is significant because of significant inflation that's occurred. The cost of the operation of this township between 2012 and 18 is much different than the next 7 years. Forget about the last 7. Below market rate returns on the bank balance, 2010 to 2017, we had an average of 1.6 million. We were underpaid because the town board wasn't, on top of investment expenses, and I'm sorry, investment income until Ron came on 7 years ago and started investing. That cost us about at least $100,000 in income that we never collected. And when you compound it, it's even more than that. Increasing salaries. Before 2010, I think this was public service, and town board wasn't paid much. But between sometime right before 2010 and 2020, or in the present time, the salaries increased. And I picked a 5-year period of time, did an analysis, and I saw between zoning, roads, the 3 board members, and the clerk and the treasurer, almost $200,000 in a 5-year period. I would say it's high. And next item. So now, how did it happen in terms of public works? Well, you got the Sturgeon Island Bridge, that was $20,000. The state government paid another, whatever, $600,000. The bridge cover, budgeted at $200,000. Palin Road was huge, $1.3 million. It went way over budget by about, from the engineer's estimate, about $700,000. Harmony was $381,000. Sturgeon Island, $172,000. And it was finished off this year. In fact, we're paying for it this month. And Warbler, and the high water cost, and the rusted out culverts, the ditches, the signs, the engineering, the anti-dust applications. Official salaries, legal costs, zoning costs, storms, meeting costs, all of that. Donations were $10,000 somewhere along the line. Some years there as much as $10,000. So if you put, next item, a list of positive financial benefits. This affected us in a not necessarily expected, but a positive way based on immediate decisions that were made in certain months of recent years. Intergovernment revenues. We had a terrible snowstorm, as you know, a few years ago in December, and the board was able to qualify us for intergovernment revenues of way over $300,000. The sale of owned equipment, I think, was something around $200,000. There was reduced property insurance and workers' compensation. The road department was closed. Building rental income was a little bit of money anyway, so there's still positive. You could add all these things up. What I wanted to say, without creating any animosity with decision making, I just want to say every board should consider looking at its history and say, how can we do better and what can we do best? Last slide. So you can put a number on each one of those things, and it's up to you to figure it out. So I'm ready for your questions, and I hope there'll be just a long list of them.
All right, thank you, Paul. Very in-depth analysis. I appreciate that. This balance, the $3.3 million that we had has been spent down over many years. It hasn't just happened in the last few months. It's been going on over many years. That was the plan. The plan was that the excess money that we had could be spent down, used with a lower budget over time. That period has ended. And I think this shows pretty clearly that if we want services to continue in this township at a level that we're used to, our levies are going to have to go up. And that will be determined at a later point, but it appears that we need to get somewhere, instead of being at 400,000, up to that maybe 600 or 650,000. Now again, that looks bad when you're jumping up from 400,000, but consider we had 7 years that averaged 735,000. We'd still be below that. So just some things to consider as we go ahead. Paul?
I should have called attention to something new on the budget that I'm suggesting that you engage in, and that is when we're on the spreadsheet, in the 2025 expense line, I had an asphalt sinking fund, or an asphalt expense that I don't think a board has ever considered budgeting for asphalt replacement. But there's 14 miles of asphalt, and as you know, asphalt is largely a petroleum byproduct, and inflation has impacted it very significantly. So if we look at these 14 miles and assume in the next 20 years, every road is going to need a budget. And so I put on your 2025 budget a starting point there based on some research that the road department did, $175,000 a year. And so when I put you down for $720,000 in costs, if you said, oh no, the asphalt's never going to wear out, you could take $175,000 out. But if you don't have the money there to fix it, and by putting in that sinking fund every year, you know, someday we can't have a Palin Road. It's not even feasible. It's not. I mean, Palin Road, that cannot happen. And even a Harmony at $380,000, that cannot happen. We have to do better than that. And but you'll have to take asphalt roads that need fixing if you don't have that budget. You'll have to convert them back to gravel. And people need to understand that. If you don't have the money to fix an asphalt road, then you just tear it up and put it back to gravel. And again, if you don't have the budget for it, you don't have calcium chloride, and you have dust. So I think it's a very difficult assignment coming up in the next few years. And did I say anything about my retirement from the treasury?
That is a good thing to keep in mind. There was a while there that Sturgeon Island Road, I believe that Mr. Waldham had initially paved that. That broke up and that went from being paved back to gravel for a number of years. So it has happened in the township before. That's not something that I believe any of us would probably like to have happen. But the reality is, if you don't have the money, it's not that you probably go back to gravel, but you just have a really bad blacktop road. So, and eventually that could happen. You might want to determine which is the worst to have, a bad blacktop road or a gravel road. Anyway, any questions for Paul? Paul, you're complete on yours. You mentioned the expenses this month came to $205. Is that correct? And
Yeah.
a great part of that was completing the blacktopping project that when Sturgeon Island Road was originally done, there was a portion of it that wasn't completed, and that was because of the bridge project and completing around that.
That's a total of about 100. That's a total of about $145,000.
All right,
Yeah.
very good. So a pretty substantial amount of this. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, a motion would be in order to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Overland, aye.
Yeah.
Horning aye.
All right. Public input. Jude Stevens.
So thanks, Paul, for putting that together so that people can think forward. That is a lot of work. I do appreciate that. In regard to spending, you know, you could have spent $4,600 to fix the mold and we wouldn't have to be paying rent. You're spending money to get an attorney to investigate T-shirts that were mailed a year ago. You could let that go. You hired a city administrator for $78,000 a year, and you knew your budget was $400,000 a year. That's all I got to say. You guys, you know, I live within my budget, live within yours.
Ron Buto.
Thank you. Tony, I and many others were very, very disappointed in your outbursts. Address the board, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess one of the board members last month had an outburst against Heidi. And many of us feel that that was wrong. And that particular board member has done those things before. Some of us feel it was no more than a kickoff for Mr. Beckman's political career. Nothing against you, Scott. But that's kind of the way it seemed when they're talking about things like that and degrading one of the members that you sit with on the board. And you have a history of attacking, or that particular board member has a history of attacking Cindy and Heidi. And I feel, and so do others, it was very disrespectful to them. The other thing is, one of the board members voted yes on getting curbing and gutters close to his land. At least that person could have told us that he was voting yes and it was close to his land, because we've had those things happen before, and the person prior to voting has always said, this will help, hurt, hinder, whatever with my particular situation. So that particular board member could thank us for paying for the curbing and guttering abutting his land.
What are you referring to? By the bridge?
The curbing and guttering down around Sturgeon Island Bridge.
That was required by the county, I believe, was it not?
It was,
Actually required by the state.
Required by the state. This had nothing to do with us.
It was
So
voted
just,
upon to
let's
increase the
just
height.
make it clear, Ron. Don't accuse the board of something we had no part of. This was part of the state project.
it was voted upon to increase the height of it at the last meeting or the meeting before.
Yes, we added
Yeah, so
1
that-
inch.
That is what I'm
It's not,
referring
okay, that's
That's
not
what I'm
curb
referring
and
to.
gutter.
to. Okay.
Thank you.
Vernon.
You're addressing the board.
I'm
again.
sorry, one of the board members was, as I understood it, was asked to go out and remove some signs, political signs. I don't know if that board member was asked to remove all political signs or just those for Heidi and Cindy. That's a question that we don't know, although just Heidi's and Cindy's were removed. And it kind of looks bad that if that board member was asked to remove signs, why weren't signs removed from all political parties? Why weren't signs removed for the tree services that are on the trees? And why weren't Stauber signs removed or something like that? And why wasn't the Timber Ghost Realty sign moved? Those things are all part of the game, I think. It's just, and one of the signs that was removed, I thought it was.
Ron, your time is up, thank you. Amy
3
Perrine?
minutes, Al.
3 minutes, that was 3.
Thank you.
I'm going to read it just because there's a lot of emotion with this. After 4 long years of nuisance problems next to my home, I want to thank the board, specifically Chairman Oberlin and Supervisor Bakhtari, for voting to pass the nuisance ordinance, which helped us with the issues we were having with the neighboring property. I also want to thank, a huge thank you to Scott Beckman for going above and beyond to drive to Mora to meet with the owner of the Blight House and talk with her about the issues. Because of his efforts, my husband and I were able to purchase the property, and at tremendous expense, we assumed the responsibility of evicting the tenant and cleaning up the property. As of this afternoon, I can report the house has been removed and the property is free and clear of all contamination and blight. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Lastly, I want to kindly and respectfully address a recent social media post I was made aware of regarding political signs. Heidi, I did not appreciate the insinuation in your post that Scott Beckman or I may have done something to your signs. Neither Scott nor I or anyone I know has had anything to do with your campaign signage. I'm not that kind of person.
Was
You
directed
need
to
to
the
just
board.
address the board.
Excuse me.
Address the
Yeah,
board.
address the
You're
board,
right.
just like
I
we're-
apologize. You're correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would appreciate a public apology on the social media account that was posted on for that. Thank you.
I will be abundantly clear with you, Ms. Prime, that that comment had nothing remotely to do with you or anyone, Beckman or anyone else. My timeline was important to point out that by the time I had finished my walk No signs were up of yours or Wald Homes or anything else. By the time I got done with my meeting at 8:30, your signs were up and all of mine were run over. That does not mean you had anything to do with it. I don't believe for a moment you or Mr. Beckman had anything to do with running over my signs. Not remotely. There's a lot of people that would stoop to that. I do not believe either one of you would do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Cindy Carlson?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, Paul, for the thankless, it shouldn't be thankless, but the thankless task of showing us where the money goes. Because it is what we have to decide about the level of life in Windemere Township. And just to complain because a levy gets high without knowing where the money goes and how much things cost is naive and even ignorant. And then, I hardly know where to start, but I want to start with the total lack of respect on all sides here and all sides here for any work that's done or any comments that are made. I find it, I got a comment coming in from somebody. Why are you here? Is the planning commission going to announce something? No, I haven't been here because I can't stand the tenor of these meetings. It's degrading. And a lot of it has to do with the gallery here that likes to mutter through and make comments. I'm sorry if you were offended that I shushed you, but I really couldn't hear what was going on. That's disrespectful. And so I want to remind everyone, here's a simple acronym to remember before you open your mouths. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? That means think. We all have work to do. We all have opinions to share. I think our goals are really actually the same, but the way you get there really makes a difference. And I also notice that no one sits here ever volunteers to serve on any of these committees. And I've been on the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment for about 6 years. And it is hard work. And it is thankless work. And for no one to ever recognize that we're working on behalf of all of you is demoralizing. So please think. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, move on to the agenda. Election and election judges.
Part of that's mine, I guess. The elections are coming up on November 5th, as I hope everybody knows. I asked before, if anybody wants to still be a judge, you could still be a judge to get in touch with me and I'll get you the form. The other thing is, the elections are going to be held in the poll building again. And I have a couple of things I'd like to request. First thing I'd like to request is that the floors in the building get power washed. It would be nice if it was clean in there for the election. There's going to be a lot of people coming in. And also for my judges. They have to sit in that building all day long. So I guess I'd like to get permission to have the floors power washed.
We can take care of that, I think. Shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, before Halloween, because I have the accuracy test before the election.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. The second thing is, for each one of, we've had 2 primaries so far, and then we've got the major election in November. So that's 3 times. I do have a family member that's been kind enough to bring tables, deliver tables, and I guess at this point, for his time and his gas, I would like to ask the board if we can pay him $60 for the 3 times that he delivers the tables and he picks up the tables. Plus, I gave you a copy of, this was just something I found on a bulletin board where people are charging per table. I mean, we get the tables for free. This person, takes it out of his time and to bring them out, to help me set them up, and then he comes and helps me take them down and get them out of there. So I would like to ask that he be paid $60 for the 3 elections, $20 per election.
All right. Discussion, motion?
I'll make a motion to pay, who is it? What's his name?
It's Greg Sarvella.
Greg Sarvella, $60 for helping out with the last election in
Thanks.
regards to bringing to the town, to the pole shed cables, setting them up, and then taking them down and bringing them back.
That's correct.
And that's $60 for the 3 times?
For the 3 times total.
All right, I'll second that. Any other discussion?
How
Hearing
many
none, all,
tables are there?
pardon?
How many tables?
3 tickets, you said 3?
We usually get, there's a total of 8.
Okay, 8, 6 for tables?
Yeah, so that'd be $64 just for the tables.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not discussing the price, I just want to know how many tables, okay. Yeah, I don't have any objection.
All right, all in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
Gary, aye.
Running eye.
Thank
All right,
you.
Motion carries.
Okay, and then the last portion is I gave you a copy of what Pine County sent us again.
Mm,
And the last time they sent this, they were giving back $138 and we decided, or the board decided to just let Pine County keep it. This time Kelly Schroeder is saying, you know, maybe we should take the money because it's $534. So would you like me to apply and get that $534 back from the county?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Was, Tony?
Heidi, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, that's
Okay, I will do
very
that.
good. All right, anything else?
I believe that's all I've got.
All right. When we appointed the election judges, there was an objection to Scott Danelski because of, at first, when this whole sign thing kind of blew up, the intent was to make it aware for everybody, township officials, people who are posting for their businesses, everybody. The idea was that state law simply says you cannot put signs on the road right of way. Now, I believe a lot of people just didn't understand that, didn't know that. It's a simple state law. I realize it's often disregarded. Apparently, that's the case. But it is something that we should know. Now, if mowing was going to go on now, we got signs that would be in the way. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody here, but it is clear in state statute that posting signs on the road right of way is not legal. Political signs, advertising signs, whatever they are. I just wanted to make that statement, so let's be clear about that. That's all it was meant to be. So that's what it was. However, when that happened, Scott Danelski was very upset. I don't know, it appears to me that he may be acting as campaign on your part, Heidi. I don't know, but it appears that he is more than just, I realized everybody on this list is going to be voting for somebody. And I obviously don't know who everybody is planning on voting for. But it seemed very obvious to me at that time that Scott was more than just somebody that was in favor. He seemed to be like he was strongly campaigning. And so I would like to make a motion that Scott be removed from the election judge list. Is
I
there a
don't
second?
believe you can do that.
I'll second that.
Certainly.
I'm gonna talk to Kelly about that.
All right, you can check that out, but I believe it's up to the board to approve. If we have somebody that appears to be directly involved in the campaign, I don't know that that is a fair election. So,
We have other judges that are campaigning for other candidates, so what's the difference?
I don't
One in particular has been campaigning for DOTSEF.
Okay.
I'm not gonna give names because I shouldn't. But why would that make a difference? People campaign for people, as long as they're not mentioning or talking about it at the election.
All right.
Motion's been made and it was seconded, so let's move on, please.
No.
Hey, you guys need to be quiet.
Yeah,
This is the
not
board
part.
meeting, not your meeting.
Thank you. Well, I will trust that the reaction that was received during this time was not appropriate. And as a matter of fact, one of our employees felt threatened and harassed. And so I don't need laughter. Please keep your comments to yourself.
Hasn't said anything yet.
Under state law, it is not, from what I understand, it is not for anybody else to determine when somebody else feels harassed or threatened. It is up to that person, and I can only say what happened there. So, I will rescind my motion on the judge, but I'm going to trust that Scott will handle himself better than he did in the office that day. And it was inappropriate. And I am going to make a motion that Scott be removed from the steering committee because that directly involves our coordinator. So I'll make that a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Overland, aye.
Bakhtiari, aye.
Running no.
All right. Shoreland ordinance. The shoreland ordinance is still being worked on by the planning commission, and I believe it will be presented at the next meeting, so we will not be doing anything with that tonight. Dropbox outside the town office. This would be just have something outside the office where papers and things could be placed. I believe it's just a motion to get one in place. Is that correct? Is anybody? I believe that's what it is. So I would make a motion that Brittany be allowed to get a Dropbox for the township outside the town office.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
Bakhtiari, aye.
Running no.
Land application of sewage. Who's? There we go. Yeah, sorry. Take the podium, if you please.
Can I have Joe? He's here on my behalf. He's part of the MPCA.
Okay.
Is he okay to speak?
Go ahead.
Oh, good evening. So I am actually my name is Joe Forrest. I'm actually a Type 4 certified land application specialist and operator.
You work for the state of Minnesota?
I am a certified land applicator through the PCA.
Through the PCA, okay.
Correct.
Meaning he does not work for the MPCA, he's just certified through the MPCA.
Correct.
For land application of different products. We land apply all over the southern half of Minnesota and up north as well.
Joe, how do you spell your last name? I'm sorry.
Last name is Forrest, F-O-R-R-E-S-T.
Okay.
So I've been working in coordination with Tom Anderson of Windemere and also Schwing Biosec. So there's an issue with the ponds at Sturgeon Lake of the wastewater, and a lot of that problem is caused from sediment and stuff that is brought in from the septic companies over there, and there's a buildup, and now there's an issue that has to be addressed. One thing that would really help immensely. I mean, this is a growing community. I spend half of my time here. At some point, it's gonna have to be addressed with Windemere as far as sewage and wastewater and management of that. But land application of this not only is a beneficial reuse of the product, it is highly managed as well, it has to be permitted. It also is a better natural product for the soil, for the farmers. It saves the farmers a lot of money and commercial nitrogen costs. Like I said, it's been heavily pushed for years and years through the PCA. The situation at Sturgeon Lake is just going to, basically, it's just a temporary fix. This will also help reduce the pressure that they are receiving from Windemere and, you know, everybody's septic going over there. It'll help not only mitigate part of that until a bigger solution can be, you know, created, but as I said, also a benefit, you know, to the local farmers and cost savings to them.
All right. Last month, you were talking about a single field and incorporating the waste. You seem to be speaking about possibly spreading in a wider area, maybe on what, like hay ground or crop ground, or what are you referring to?
Typically, this would be a better application for, the best application is for hay ground. It can also be used on, I gotta think back to the regulations, for corn and soybeans fields, as long as, you know, that ground is not touched within 30 days after application.
You have to wait 30 days before you can, did you say?
Before it can be, yeah, either planted or harvested.
Planted too, oh my, okay.
But that's only a 30-day, like I said.
Yeah.
After 30 days, then you are.
What, we all know we got winter coming, so what happens? How does, if we got 3 feet of snow everywhere, what happens?
So that's one of the regulations, is that for land application, they are, as far as septic goes, they are regulated on the amount of gallons that can be spread per acre, and you are allowed to not spread on anything over a 2% slope. So basically, it has to be a flat field, so there's no runoff or anything else. There's also setbacks that are expanded for, you know, grass waterways, streams, anything of that nature, to reduce or basically eliminate any contamination into any waterways whatsoever.
Still, the question is, if you got 4 feet of snow and a 5-foot snow drift or road
Actually,
bank, what do you do?
Well, the best part for the land application is for the spring through the fall months.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
specifically told you're not allowed to land apply, because the deal is,
Yep.
that he's talking about discount. So you
Okay.
can't land apply.
Sure, and
When it's winter.
I'm more familiar with the Class B biosolids, and we do that year round.
Okay.
Where it takes the relief off of, you know, helps with the Sturgeon Lake issue is, you know, the amount that is being brought in right now, because land application is not allowed, is becoming excessive to Sturgeon Lake, causing more and more of an issue. Now, if you're able to land apply spring through fall, and then in the frozen months, then you take that to the pond, so there is no land application whatsoever. Not only are you reducing the intake at Sturgeon Lake, you're also benefiting the farmers.
All right. So, but I thought your time with Sturgeon Lake was up here.
It is, very soon.
So, and it's gonna run out about the same time we run into winter. So, have you got a plan for this winter?
Well, I'm hoping they give me more at the next meeting. I've been discussing that with them because the evaporation that they've had with the dry weather, I'm hoping they look at that and go, we're losing 60 to 70,000 gallons a week in evaporation alone. We can take on an extra 50 to 100,000 gallons. But back to your original point, like Heidi said, I won't be applicating in the winter months whatsoever. You can actually do it if you lime stabilize it. I won't be doing that.
Okay, yours is strictly intended to be incorporation.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Well, Mr. Chairman, there was an email from Tim
Lutke.
Lutke, thank you. He's the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency Municipal Division and with the compliance and enforcement anyways. It explains everything, how it works, as far as, you guys, use chemicals, before and so forth. All of that is fine, but the way he explains that, he thinks that everything that goes into those tanks is just considered poop, and it's just that's exactly the language he used. But I have concern that, I don't think it's all that, there's raw sewage also contains, heavy metal, antibiotics and other chemicals that people just throw into the, they flush them away. And isn't there better choice, we got all these forestry and forest land. Is it possible we can use the forest land? Because all those antibiotic and the chemicals and stuff like that, eventually, it's gonna go into the animals and, and then it's gonna be consumed by humans.
See, where there might run into more of an issue with that is there are a lot more streams and runoffs in woodland. Also, it is basically impossible to incorporate in wooded land. But basically, you would just be spraying it and that's it. So with this, with the immediate incorporation, it's worked into the soil, it prevents the odor, it prevents the bugs, it prevents any vector attraction whatsoever.
And how often is this gonna be?
Like I said,
Every time we do that?
It has to be
Yes,
incorporated
and it has
within
to be
6 hours
incorporated.
of being
Yes.
applied per
Yes,
state.
it has to be
state law.
incorporated in the soil, yes, within 6 hours, correct.
Okay, so, you said you have one field already that you could use, is that?
Correct.
And how big is that field?
47 acres.
47 acres, so how many gallons would you be able to put on that before that would be at capacity?
840,000 gallons right now, with the crop that's on it.
Okay,
In 2 years, I could put 4 times that on it.
4 times, and that is because,
It goes for, the manna rate or the nitrogen rate is based on what the crop there is now and the
Okay.
next year crop. It would go from just a non-harvested field to alfalfa. And
Right.
Alfalfa could take 200 pounds per acre of nitrogen.
okay, so you said you could, right now it could take 800,000 gallons?
Correct.
And how long would that last you?
About 10 months
Okay.
at my current rate.
Okay.
But obviously, I only have basically May 1 to November 1 to be able to do that.
Right,
So, and the issue that's starting to come up now is if some of this can't be deferred, Sturgeon Lake is talking about options of limiting what can come in there whatsoever.
Mhm.
If that happens, the people in Windemere are gonna be hurting, because it's gonna raise their prices, because it's gonna have to be trucked either further, or, there's a number of different, costs will go up for hauling, for pumping, for everything.
So right now, the choices are Sturgeon Lake and Moose Lake, and they're both over capacity.
Not Moose Lake. Moose Lake does not allow it at
Moose
all.
Lake will
They
not.
don't allow
Nope,
it.
No.
they're over capacity.
so where else could you go?
Scanlon,
Scanlon,
yep.
and that is available to you at this time?
I haven't reached out for a permit because they're getting close to capacity. They've shut the plant down 4 times this year because of capacity issues there.
To where, as I said, we're doing this for 20 years, it is a beneficial reuse. There are, I could drive you around to 100 hay fields where the land application, not only of this, not only outperforms commercial fertilizer, like I said, but it is also a huge cost savings for the farmers, and eventually it's gonna end up saving every resident here a lot of money, because the alternative is rates are gonna
All
have
the
to go
scan
up.
on that, 50% increase in rates roughly.
What, part of the issue that we have here in Windemere is we have, compared to many townships, quite dense population and an awful lot of water, a lot of lakes.
Right.
You know, I'm sure there are many townships in this state that probably have maybe no lakes, no water, and very limited population.
I deal with a lot of townships that have just as many lakes, if not more. And that is why it is regulated as much as it is by the PCA as far as, you know, setbacks from any waterways whatsoever, slopes, any kind of runoff. You know, there's definitive rules that have been in place. They've been doing land application programs for 40, 50 years.
Okay.
Um,
And you have to go through classes, is that what I understand?
I've already done them, yep,
You have done that
Correct.
already? Okay,
Yep.
so you're set that way.
absolutely.
Okay.
Is the 40 acre in Windemere or somewhere else?
It's in Windemere, that's why I'm asking for permission. If it wasn't, I had that, then I would just use it right now. That
Have
part would
you-
give me permission.
Have you any other townships that you have contacted about this?
As far as if they have restrictions,
Well, as far as whether they'd be open to, you know,
I think it's a matter
finding land you could spread on,
it's a matter of finding somebody to allow it.
yeah.
And this is the one field I've gotten a farmer on board and said, absolutely, I need the nitrogen, I'll take it.
Okay.
So, and then I even have this, that's kind of a guidelines for biosolids, so it's something that operators carry. And it gives you all the rules, short form, you know, as far as setbacks, water, and everything you have to, you know, stay away from, you know, setbacks from roadways, setbacks from wells, setbacks from, like I said, there are so many rules to it that, you know,
Yeah.
with them being, the permits being followed, there really is not an issue.
All right. Questions, Heidi, Tony?
Well, according to Mr. Lutke, it looks like, you know, this is a safe, you know, if they do it by the book and take the classes, seems like there's, you know, like a standard operation, so I guess I need to, you know, to know more about it.
Heidi, any questions?
Nope. I don't have, you know, from the information that I've received from Tim, there isn't an issue because it's legal to do. I don't know, Mr. Boctieri, how you're gonna find out more information. Yeah, other than, are you gonna call Mr. Lucky, or what's your, I guess the question and the reason why I was brought up at this meeting is, because we said last meeting that we were gonna do some investigating into it, because he was running up against a time crunch, a capacity crunch, so that we could make the decision at this meeting. So I took the extra step to get the information from Mr. Lucky for this board to feel more comfortable. So I'm fine with making a decision and allowing it.
What about, did you say again on Tony's concerns about antibiotics or anything like that? Is there testing done on any of this prior, or how does that?
Once it's incorporated, it's considered in the ground. It's no different than like a mound system, for instance. It has to go through a separation process, and all that filters out. Once it gets through that 3 feet, like a mound, it'll be no different than that, then it's considered clean water.
Yeah, my only concern is that, you know, we harvest, you know, crops that our animals, our food supply comes from, so that's the only concern I have, otherwise I don't have.
Do we know if there's any research on, does a crop like alfalfa take up antibiotics or anything? Do we know if there's any?
I don't believe so. Based on going to school, I mean, you've got your 2-vector controlling agents, and that kills everything. I mean, it certainly does. And that's what the MPCA has said, the state has said that there's no restrictions on dumping any of the stuff that's in a septic tank.
So at 40 acres, just allowing you to do it, or Mike's and everybody else?
I'm here for myself.
Okay.
Whatever Mike wants to do, he can do on his own. That's just for me, that one field.
And that, so you would start applying when?
If I got permission today, tomorrow.
You would?
I have a tractor sitting there ready to go with a disc on it.
Okay. All right.
And like you said, it works basically the same as a drain field in everybody's homes that's a septic.
Okay.
You know, the plants, what the plants uptake is nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium.
Mhm.
You know, some other micronutrients, zinc, and that type of stuff. But those are the three main nutrients that the plants will absorb and uptake.
All right. All right, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we allow, I'm sorry, what's the name of your company?
Robin Septic.
Robin Septic to land apply according to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's rules and requirements to land apply and disc in his septic pumping waste.
Waste.
Septage.
Septic.
Septic, yeah.
All right, do you have a second?
No second?
I believe that I will second this with a certain amount of reservation. What do we know about the smell factor? Does it go away? I mean, will it go
It's
away?
gone. Not once it, so, for example, today we were land applying some Class B biosolids down in Hugo,
Which is what?
which is a byproduct of the malting process for barley for beer.
Okay.
And the odor on that is similar, if not worse. Following the rules and incorporation, once it's incorporated, that odor is gone within an hour or two. Once it's incorporated into the soil,
And
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
know when it's time to fertilize the field, you can smell it for miles.
absolutely.
And for our inspector, as part of the email, I don't know if you guys actually read it or had time to, it says smell should be minimal when done correctly. I personally would have no problem with septage being applied on a field that I own. I may have had some reservations prior to working in this field, but after learning how it all works, I would not have any issues with it.
What is the closest neighbor you have on that property? Do you know where they are?
They would be to the northeast of this field, probably 3/8 of a mile.
But yeah, like, so once it's incorporated into the soil, that
Hmm.
mitigates a lot of the odor in a very rapid amount of time.
All right. This is, as a matter of fact, it's one of the subjects that I wanted to bring up tonight is the whole sewage system. It's a challenge. We've got, this is just the beginning of, I think, what's going to be a much larger issue coming up. And so, as I said, I have some reservations about it. I'm sure there will be some people that will not be happy. But I believe, as Heidi was saying, and as I know from the past, this has been done in many other areas, and we just haven't had it right in our area. But yeah. All right.
And I want to be abundantly clear that, and I know that there's people that don't like it or don't understand it or have concerns with it, all of it. And in working for the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and the amount of time that's spent in regards to researching, making and ensuring that what it is we do regulate and put in rule and do inspect for each of our programs is well vetted and well thought out. This is not something that has just come up and we fly by the seat of our pants. So I stand behind the agency that I work for, as well as all the work that's done with that. And if the agency regulates it and we have an inspector that's willing to come down and even take a look at Chad's or their field, you know, whenever the township would like to request it. For me to stand in that way would be short-sighted, to say the least.
So you will have to quit when the ground freezes, is that correct?
Yep.
All right.
The other question is, Mr. Chairman, so what if next month Mike comes and says, hey, I want to have my field? Because the 3 pumpers and maybe could be more. So are we going to allow each pumper to have 40 acres and just dump their sewer?
It would be a matter of, I would assume, I don't believe we could be selective on this, so yes, if they.
That's why I asked,
if
you know,
they
if they're
were-
all sharing it together.
Well, they wouldn't be sharing that field, this is Chad's field. But if they could find other fields, I got lots of hay fields, but I don't incorporate anything anymore. I don't plow any ground up. And,
And
there
our
aren't-
decisions could certainly be made on a case-by-case basis.
Oh,
It's not
absolutely.
blanketing that now Windemere Township, you can, you know, get any field and incorporate your septage into it. It's a case-by-case basis with a lot of thought.
So, and as far as the permitting goes with the PCA, so as far as the fields that I permit, so what I have to do, like for example, when I, you know, because we land apply probably 9,000 acres a year on an average. But what I have to do with the materials that we apply that are required by the PCA, I have to do a full permit of the site. I have to give them all the information. I have to do a web soil survey, make sure, you know, there are so many different regulations that have to be followed in order to even get the field permitted.
Sure.
Okay.
So-
Very good.
Okay.
All right, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Overland, aye.
Cronin, aye.
Yeah.
All right, motion carries. All right, Board of Supervisors, other. Tony, you have anything?
I do not have, Mr. Chairman.
Heidi?
No.
All right. I have just, Cindy, you sent out this on the marijuana issue.
I just forwarded it
Yeah.
from the county.
All right. Did everybody read that?
Yeah, it's kind of selective, you know, I went to one of their meetings, that was just, you know, way back. You know, we can either choose it for our area or not choose it, so that's, you know.
We can
kinda-
choose to let the county regulate it,
Right.
correct? Yeah.
And I'd rather, you know, them doing that. Us doing it.
Heidi, what are your thoughts?
I don't want to get into regulating, I'll tell you that much.
No, I don't think so either. So, a motion would be in order to allow the county to regulate whatever this involved with marijuana in Windemere Township.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Overland, aye.
Yeah.
Cronin, aye.
All right.
So it looks like we have to sign something.
Yeah, we'll have to,
Print that off and Mr. Overland, you can just sign it.
yeah. We'll get
You'll
that.
take care of that, Cindy? Printing off the thing that you signed? It's a typed
Oh,
out
it's
resolution.
Okay with the thing? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We had a suggestion from our IT guy. You've got everything, all the stuff that's been scanned on a hard drive, is that correct, Cindy?
Yeah, I've got the hard drive.
And that has not been uploaded to the cloud, is that correct?
No,
No, okay.
no, that's just a separate drive.
Okay, I think it was Ron's suggestion that that should be done, and that way it would be available to anybody who can properly request it. Can we get those to him to do that?
Yeah, before I'm done, I guess, as clerk.
Yeah, it's not a great urgency, but just something that I think we should get taken care of. I happened to meet a person who works for an engineering company that deals with septic systems, community septic systems. They are Bullock Engineering. They not only do the engineering, but they also do all of the necessary preparation and how do I want to say this, presentations. Also are able to work and are very familiar with getting funding that is available for this project, these kind of projects. And so I said that before I would bring it to the board, I wanted to know more information, and so I've invited, or we're going to plan a meeting. I will get together, Scott, I hope you can attend, and have Brittany as well, and we'll get some information. Yes?
And then I'm also working in coordination, like I said, with Tom Anderson from Schwing Biosec. He's also resident on Surgeon Lake.
Yeah.
And what they do is they design, engineer systems going into, they do service wastewater plants all over the world.
Okay.
Putting
Yeah,
systems
so that'd be
in.
another, maybe Tom could even join us on the meeting possibly. And
Yeah, that's a good idea.
See,
Yeah.
see what each idea that they have.
They have process even to turn it into a Class A biosolid, where it basically turns it right back kind of into dirt, and
Yeah.
it's not regulated, or, you know, there's numerous different processes.
All right. Anyway, however we do it, I think this is a discussion that needs to begin, because we are only getting more and more and more concentration of people in our community, and the problem is not going to get smaller. It'll only get larger. So, all right, road update.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Paula. We're going to report here in October on work that was done back in September. Go ahead, next slide. Some of the stuff that we did, we took over the county project at the Sturgeon Island Road there within that scope, just to get this done because the prime contractor had decided not to show up anymore. So what we did is we finished the shoreline work for that project, replaced some of the concrete that was not accurate and properly done. There was also a storm pipe that was put in and put it incorrectly, and we went ahead and had to remove it and rebed it and put it in place so it worked properly. And also,
Can I just ask a quick question? So who was the contractor that decided not to show up that we hired? And then who was it that made the decision that none of this was done correctly and therefore had to be redone?
so we talked about this last month. It was a big discussion at our last meeting.
Would be good, refresh my memory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
So,
you.
county project, we didn't hire anybody. It was their contractor.
So who was it that didn't show up for the council?
S&R Reinforcement.
And so as a result of them, that this was their project, we ended up having to pay for it?
We are at the moment, and we'll bill them back. And again, this was an in-depth conversation last month on this very topic here. So again, moving on, part of that project involved asphalt, and it also involved our township project on each side of the bridge and up on the island to finish Sturgeon Island Road. And that is now complete after over a year of waiting. So there was a rotted culvert on Sunset Bay Road and some collapsing shoulders that need to be stabilized and repaired. Also the downward portion of Laura Lane was failing, and that got corrected as well. The wood wear surface that needed to be put down on the bridge was also installed by a group of volunteers, no charge to the township. And then we also got some patchwork done on Island Loop. This is Sunset Bay Road, before and after picture. Things cleaned up pretty nice in that project there. Next slide, please. This is a before and after on Sturgeon Island Road, approaching the bridge, looking to the southeast, before and after. Here's a group of volunteers that dedicated a lot of time to this project and finished it up by putting this beautiful wood deck on the bridge to keep it looking as natural as we could. So, next slide, please. So we did no grading in September, as most of you that live on gravel roads would know. The drought makes it almost pointless by county standards. Every contractor I've been in contact with that operates a blade, it'll last for a little bit, maybe a day or two, and then it goes right back to just rocks and washboard and such. So
A lot more dust.
and a lot more dust. Yeah, we just need some rain. So, and next two slides, please. Go to the. Yep, there you go. What we got coming up here is just our sign and post replacement next spring when contractor and weather will allow it. So here's a list of our contractors on this slide that we used, and we always thank them for the good work that they do in a timely manner. And now, there's Earl. He's always there. You have a snowplow quote in front of you.
Ah, yes.
Want to grab that, please? And this came in on the deadline. This was advertised for 2 weeks in the paper. Many contractors were also contacted with no interest in plowing snow. And this is the one quote that we received. So my recommendation is you take it. Basically, it's the same as last year from Kaminsky. The difference is that they will work off $2,500 of their standby fee. And then they will rent back the shop for $1,000 a month plus propane.
All right. We have
What do you mean work back, $2,500?
So they'll work off $2,500 hourly of that $4,200 standby fee.
Not the whole thing?
$2,500.
And then what do you mean, so $4,200 monthly fee minus if they have to actually plow snow? And then then there's another thing, there's $1,000 or whatever that they take off as well for rental?
So as last year, they leased the shop for $1,000 a month, plus they pay the propane. And so basically, you know, it's getting that 4,200 down to 700 left.
And that's for them to be here, staged and ready to go
That's correct.
in the event of a snow event. So, all right. We have a motion to approve Kaminsky for snow plowing.
So moved.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
TII.
All right. Anything else, Brent?
As always, all of these reports are listed on our township website. And yeah, I just had a question here I wanted to bring up. There was discussion, pretty in-depth discussion last month about an FBI investigation. And Heidi, you were asked a question, what do you know about this? And your reply was, I know that I know that I am not allowed to discuss it. And I also know I had nothing to do with sending it. Can you please elaborate, on what you do know about this investigation?
Absolutely not.
All right.
I do have a couple of questions though about the road stuff.
Okay.
Did we pay 2 different contractors for removing curb and gutter for Sturgeon Island Road? And if so, I'm just wondering what the difference is.
Please be
Removing
specific on that.
Yeah, we got Goble Excavating, September 4th, remove curb and gutter haul away. And then Rokon Paving, a 53-foot remove curb and gutter. which was dated 9/30, Sturgeon Island Road. So just wondering if,
Yeah, there was multiple sections that need to be removed. And that's why there's 2 charges. Anything else?
not at this time.
All right, zoning?
Zoning this month, probably 5 or 6 new permits. Most of those are garage or slab work for parking areas. Working on about 4 new ones, new residentials for next year. One of them is on Alder Loop. That's also gonna be requesting a CUP for a small shop in his yard. That is on the agenda for the next board meeting there, so working on that. Also this month, we ended up getting requested to Lakeview Drive. It appears that previous owner, while building the foundation, dumped, from what I understand, almost 4,000 cubic yards of tires as backfill. Been trying to track down the owners of the company, get permits and engineering permits and such, not having much success. The property owner is also working on it, trying to figure out where the permits are, so we are currently working on that project. Also got a request from the county and working on the permits for the year so they can get tax records brought up to date. And on a positive note, some success in the blights, the Preen project. Alder Loop had a residence and a couple old campers removed. Some success with people coming in and cleaning up around old trailer houses. We are currently looking for contractors for some of them that the price is reasonable to assist in removing those things. I did speak with Dale again today, and his schedule is opening up a little bit, so maybe he'll approach those individuals. Other than that, just waiting on some responses and working with some people on blights. For the record, I did get notified today. There is a small, I would consider it a tiny house going up on the island without a permit. No one was present. I did leave a card, and we'll be following up on that one first thing in the morning.
Very good.
Is that the one on the block?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just have to thank you so much because blight was one of the things that was on my list, for years. And for you to be able to accomplish the biggest eyesore as you turned on the freeway and just come toward the lake. And thank Amy for spending all that money to get rid of it. And like I said, when I went to the Pine County meeting, there's a budget for blights. I think they had like $225,000 in it, that not too many people are aware of it, so we can, we're not entitled to all of it, but as much as we can. And you and I went to a meeting that, we've got a plan for the rest of them, so our goal is 4 blights a year, so hopefully we'll reach it. Thanks, Scott.
Scott, anything else?
That's it, sir.
Planning Commission, any report?
Hi, just to let you know, the Planning Commission has been really busy. We've been working on the shoreland ordinance. And if you guys think going through money is tedious, you should go through language. Anyway, we're making headway there, and we are also taking another look at the Windemere short-term rental ordinance. We found some things in our work with the shoreland ordinance. We're working off the shoreland ordinance that the county has. We found in that their short-term rental ordinance is encapsulated, embedded in the shoreland ordinance, and there were a couple things that we think could be improved upon in our ordinance. So we have a special meeting scheduled for next Tuesday, the 15th, yeah, at 4 o'clock. And Diana and I worked today on suggested wording that we hope will be brought before you at the November meeting. It's adding page numbers is one thing, and then replacing and refining one definition is another. That if you can read that, discuss it, and approve it at your November meeting, we can put it in our short-term rental ordinance, and then our suggestion is to embed our Windemere Township short-term rental ordinance 2024 into the shoreline ordinance. And that's what we're doing.
Good,
Thank you.
thank you. Fire district?
Well, they changed the date that it was supposed to be last Tuesday. They somehow they changed it to Thursday, so I don't have any report. And another thing that I was just gonna say, I'm gonna take Paul's suggestion of cutting back on the supervisor's salary, so that was a charge account, so I'm just gonna not be billing for the, so that would cut 30% off of my salary.
Good. Anything else? If not, we'll review the claims.
Okay, in presenting, start with a brief presentation. Cindy, would you pass these three to the supervisors, and then I have one for you? Okay, those are the claims, and I'll have one to hand to Cindy here in a minute. Okay, I'm passing the claims out there. You have a copy. The new policy is working pretty well. Not perfect, but we're getting most everything in on the first of the month. And there's still a few email addresses that maybe go to Cindy first, and then I am delayed in connecting with her. So, but I'm hopeful that we get the mail and the email straightened around so that we get things in on the first of the month. And if that happens, as treasurer for the remaining time, I will get you reports a lot sooner, and I'll include the claims. You know, but we're not going to have check numbers until the checks are run, but at least I can put the financials in and put in this month's claim.
Let me make just that point to anybody who's listening online, that all claims need to be submitted to both the clerk and the treasurer by noon on the 1st. Is that correct?
The policy is that they come to the treasurer on the 1st. I immediately turn them around with a copy to the clerk.
Okay.
So that's the way it's in the policy.
Very good.
Okay, in addition in the policy, the clerk's responsibility is to sign a document. And according to this new claims policy, the document that we have, that I put a little O up in the corner for the claims manifest, the clerk should sign that before you sign the claims, before you sign the checks. Before they go out, the clerk's to sign this. I've had some correspondence with the state auditor on this, and they're going to ask for a signed copy. So if you're signing individual claims, your policy is not to do that. You can sign them all you want, put your autograph on them, initials, but it doesn't mean anything, because you've got a policy to sign this claims manifest. This is our original. I only have one original, so you can keep the unsigned copies. Now I'm going to hand this to Cindy and ask her to sign. If she doesn't want to sign, well then you decide whether you're going to pay claims or not. But it's really up to the clerk to approve the claims.
All right. So,
Okay.
but we should review them first.
She's already reviewed them, so.
Okay. But we as a board should.
Yeah, okay, and then, yes, yeah, you should, before you sign the check, you should review them.
Yes, and before we sign the claim.
Are the claims okay with you, Madam Clerk?
I'm still not gonna sign this because they're still not giving me the totals that I am asking for.
Okay, well, you're not gonna get the totals because you're getting everything that's statutorily required.
I used to get the correct total from Ron. I don't understand why you can't contact Ron and find out how to do it the way that we did it before.
Well, I have no idea what the clerk is talking about, but this is your policy, and it's up to the clerk to sign. If she doesn't sign, I'll just take the checks and go home, I guess. I don't know. What am I supposed to do? You tell me. You can go ahead and sign the checks without the clerk's approval, but you have all the information. Here's what I want to explain to the board. This is not an accounting device. This is your approval of claims. Now, if the clerk is talking about something that she wants, I'll get it to her. I'll figure it out and get it to her. Either that or you can petition Ron Mossberg to come back. But I'll do my best to get it to her. But this is not an accounting device. This is your claims. Everything on here that you need is on this piece of paper. And
This is the total amount that is being drawn from the township
Yep.
funds this month.
Yep. And I'm gonna call attention to the direct deposits, and then the checks, and then the EFTs. At the bottom this month, we have 3 EFTs, para, which I don't have any information on that until the payroll is run. But after the payroll is run, I'll forward to Cindy all the information she needs about para, who gets that money and who it's credited towards. Minnesota withholding, again, that's your withholding, that's a confidential thing. It only the payroll system runs it. Same thing with federal withholding. So the reason you can't say this is accounting is there's also FICA tax, the employer's share. I have no idea what that is. I can't account for that until after the checks are run. So this is a complete report. I'll get Cindy, I'll assure you I can get Cindy whatever you want. So should we start with the claims?
Yes, please.
Cindy, should we start with the claims? Okay. Here, we're going to start today with the claims that these, if you could just pass those on to the board and then back to you. These would be the payroll. So it's the direct deposits came off of those. And the next set, for the benefit, occasionally I get comments and people ask for questions and they want to know the claims. So would you continue to process those? Yeah, thank you. And so presenting them this way, I hope there'll be less questions and more public discourse. All I'm trying to do is transparency. So next one is the rent for the office, and Cindy asked the question, I don't have the answer. If you know what these meetings were, these $50 meeting room rentals, put it on here, because Cindy wants to know that. I don't know if I really need to know that, but Cindy does for her records, so. Okay, next item of business that we're gonna have.
Well, we're being charged rent for using the room. Well, who's using it?
Well, somebody here knows, I don't, yeah. Yeah. So, I guess we should just ask Brittany to keep track of that and make sure it gets on the claim. Sorry about that. I hope the tonal quality of my voice doesn't sound like I'm disturbed about it. I mean, it doesn't matter. I believe it's accurate, but let's have the coordinator do it. I can't do it. Next thing, I'm gonna submit to you, this is the MediaCom, Minnesota Power, and Lake Country Power, and North Star. That's the next packet. Those are all pretty small claims. Okay? The next one is gonna be the contractor claims, and there's 4 or 5 here from Global Excavating. And the next one is Rocon, and there is, I believe it's 4 claims. We issue 1 check, even though we list them out separately, because some are more small.
Those more contractor claims, why are you separating them out between global and local?
Just because they would be mixed up, that's all. Because those, all 1 check, Heidi. There's 1 check for those claims. Yeah, there's 1 check for these claims, so go ahead. Are you ready for the next packet? Do you have a question?
Nope.
Okay. There's another contractor that was 1 line item and 1 claim for Greg Waldholm. And then we have, we got a question about Hinckley trailer sales. Why are we buying trailers? We're not buying trailers, we're buying culverts. So this Hinckley trailer, so this is for culverts. We'll disclose that. And then we have Dressel Aggregate. And Vern, or Tony or Vern, whoever knows, I don't have the street that this Class 5 was played on. So when it comes down that end, would you write on this?
Yep.
What project it was?
You want to write on it now? It's Birchview.
Okay, I can do that.
It's a little late. They're a month late.
Okay. I'll write on it, Birchview.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anything we can do to be transparent on this stuff so we don't have to come back and get emails and questions later. And then we have this big bill from the North Country Electric for the bridge cover electricity. And the rest of them are small bills for miscellaneous accounts. No more contractors, just that. Okay. Thank you.
Have you got the credit card bill?
Yes, that's at the office. I'll get it to you.
Shouldn't it be part of the claims?
Yeah, it should be, but I left it at the office, I'm sorry. It's the credit card bill, if you're asking a question about, let me just tell you. That's under, First Bank, National Bank, Omaha. It's a mess, and the mess is ending this month. We're getting a new credit card from First National Bank, and only the coordinator is authorized to charge. We won't have this kind of a disaster that we have on a credit card where, 3 or 4 different people. And what are they charging it to? And what account should it be charged to? I don't need a total amount on a credit card bill. I need to know the individual charges and the purpose for each person. So this is gonna be smooth in the future, but right now
That's
it's
the
a
way
mess
it's
that has-
been all along. It's only been the last 2 months that there's been a problem.
Well, there's a problem because I don't get the information, but we'll get it, and there's no worry
And
about
I
it.
still don't have copies of the credit card bills. You've got them all.
I don't think so, I only got the last one.
No, you kept last month and the month before. I don't
I
have
asked
them.
you for copies, you gave me whatever you gave me, I didn't know you gave me your original. So, okay. That's all. The credit card bill, I'll just tell you that since that's a missing item here, it's $67.16. That was for GoDaddy, which is our internet supplier, and another internet small bill, $9 or something. And the rest of it is $10.99 in carrying charges. So that's the whole story. Sorry about that, Cindy, I'll get that taken care of for you. I thought I was doing well and helping out, getting it balanced out. Would you sign as soon as you're ready? I'll just read into the record then while you're reviewing the claims by invoice. We're going to give you EFT number 24101 to 24103. That's a total of 3 electronic deposits for, those are all withholding issues, or payroll items, para, Minnesota withholding, and federal withholding. So 24101 to 24103, that's 3. And then direct deposits 708 to 17, I'm sorry, direct deposits 1708 to 1716. That's a total of 9 items, direct deposit. That's your payroll at the beginning of this. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to read you the check numbers. We're working on an internal audit right now with our IT department, Ron, and having done the books for 7 years and filed the reports for the last 7 years, which is a very challenging activity at the end of the year, filing with the state auditor, and he's got an excellent reputation for filing on time and correctly. But he's working with us on an internal audit for a couple exception transactions that are of no great consequence, but I'm going to report all that hopefully being solved next month. But this one problem that continues to come up is the checks don't print in order. And we get just an inordinate number of canceled checks because the system prints them out of order. And it's some kind of a problem with Intuit. But I don't mind keeping track of voided checks. I void them, I put them in a file, they're stored in a fire file in the office. So, and I'll give you a report on the voided checks. And when I started on March 22nd, right up until next month, and I'll file that report with you. So the check numbers, Amy, are 13,681 and 682. 683 is void. I don't know why it was skipped. And then it's 13,684 to 13,692. And then it skipped a few checks, numbers, and went to 16,696 to, 13,696 to 13,704. So that's 20 total checks, 9 direct deposits, and 3 EFTs. I'll give you a copy of this, Amy.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion to pay the bills?
So,
Do we have a second? Second that, all in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
I haven't signed the claims yet, so I will not be voting on that until I sign the claim. I'm just looking at it now.
Oh, I thought you had seen the claims.
I didn't sign them, no, I passed them down when you were handing them to me.
Oh, I thought you had looked through.
Nope,
Oh, I'm sorry.
didn't have time.
Okay.
Is this all of them then here? Okay. Because they're not initialed. Are we not initialing them then?
No, your new policy is just to sign the manifest, and that's what was recommended at the MAP training.
Okay, because sometimes they were and sometimes they weren't.
Yeah, I don't know why they were. That top page, I'm recommending that the clerk discontinue this practice of writing that top page. All it does is take time, and if you're looking at that, you're not looking at the claim.
What top page? This one?
The cover page that she puts on it. No, the cover page on the claim. There's a, yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, sometimes it helps me understand more detailed what it is about the claim, so.
Well,
if
that's fine, you can do whatever you want with the clerk.
Okay.
But I'm saying it's, you're supposed to be looking at the invoice, and if the invoice doesn't tell you
We do
everything you need,
both. Yeah.
well, it's redundant.
Tons of paper.
Good work.
Was it mailed to, oh, well, we can, all right. So we reviewed the claims. Do we have a motion to pay the claims in the total of $205,787.26?
so moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Overland, aye.
Backyard,
All right. And we have that claim sheet then that we need to sign. And do we have any mail?
Is your mail, Paul?
No, I don't have a note, unless you, I mean, I gave you the mail piece. That thing from the,
No.
It was the meeting minutes from the sewer district, if you want to look at it.
That's fine. Thank you. All right. I believe with that,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
do you have the checks?
Right here.
Checks in there?
They're getting rid of that.
Okay, thanks.
I got one more thing, if you got a moment here.
Sure.
Some of what you folks paid tonight was part of that county project, and my suggestion to you folks is to build the county back
Okay.
for that, and see if they'll take care of that. So whatever that process would look like, but getting your permission to lead it up and get those claims into Pine County.
Absolutely.
So,
So,
So basically, they would be the invoices and all of the county project was on those invoices. So
well, you would know which that is.
That is correct.
I would believe you could work with Brittany or whoever.
Yeah,
And
that's why I just need permission out to do that
Absolutely.
on behalf of the township to bill them back, so if you want to make a motion on that.
we can. I would like to make a motion that we bill the county for the portion that, of work that had to be redone. Is that correct?
Yeah, within the county project.
Within the county
Redone
project.
and or finished.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Yeah, I guess it would be good to get from Mr. Anderson exactly what we're planning on billing him back for what work. I would feel more comfortable with that, knowing exactly what we're asking for.
Which, I believe you're referring to which claim or whatever?
Correct, which claims we're billing back for, which work
Well, there's
that we
multiple in
we
there.
had to do because the county contractor failed to show up.
Yeah, so they all have the county project written on it.
So is it just for the month of September or
That's
September
correct.
and August?
You have everything in this month here.
So September?
Yep. Just these claims.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's,
So the work was done by Goble and Rokon.
no, Gregory Waldron did some of the work, Advanced Concrete did some of the work, so there's multiple in there. Advanced Concrete, you don't have their invoice yet, so
That would be
that'll be
added
coming,
into there as
next
well.
month or whatever.
Maybe you
so.
could just stand by and we'll separate that out with a memorandum and
Yeah.
do it at the November
right.
meeting.
That would be good, so
Sounds
that's
good.
clear.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I have one more
Oh,
quick question. I just
go ahead.
wasn't quite satisfied. You know, Heidi, this FBI thing has been pretty upsetting
Mr.
to a
Anderson,
lot of
I
people.
don't know what you don't understand about any potential investigation, but I am not at liberty, nor would I discuss anything with you about that at
Well,
all.
would you discuss it with contractors?
I will not discuss it with you publicly at
No,
all.
I'm asking, would you discuss it with contractors?
If you're trying to bait me into answering anything, I'm not going to talk
Well,
about
it's
it.
a question I'm asking. So
I'm not
would
gonna
you
answer
dis-
your question.
Excuse me. Would
Mr.
you-
Anderson, this line of questioning for tonight is completely done.
Well, I'm not
done.
done, maybe by you, but I'm not.
Well, I'm not gonna answer your questions anymore.
So my
This is-
questions
This
are-
is absolutely embarrassing, and it's embarrassing for you.
Well, that's your opinion.
Now,
I
Mr.
respect that, so-
Overland, you made a
So-
motion to adjourn the meeting?
I believe I did,
Okay,
yes.
I will second that motion.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Wasn't there a motion
Yeah, there's a motion we have to go back to regarding, we put on the table
pay the
for
bills?
bill for the county, and when there's a motion by Al.
Ah,
go ahead,
I-
and then a
Okay.
second
I'll
by,
second.
We were going to table that till next month.
so it's tabled.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't clarify that. All right, meeting adjourned, I believe. Did we vote? Motion to adjourn and second, all in favor, say aye. Overland, aye.
Yeah.
Crony, aye.